guys, this is Gail, and I don't know if you have ever had one of these things where you get an idea and then that idea kind of evolves into another idea, which evolves into another idea. But that's kind of where I am right now, and there's no telling where this video is going to go. So I'm warning you up front. You know, I really won't even know what to entitle this until after it's done. But I bought this votive at the Dollar Tree, I don't know, a month or so ago, because I really liked the shape. It's sort of like one of those stemless wine glasses. And I really liked, like I said, I liked the shape. So I bought one with the intentions of covering it or doing something to it. So I was thinking about this morning, and I thought, well, you know, I'm sort of in that beachy mode right now. I could make little beachy things, you know, like seaweed, and then add some animals and things in here. And I was thinking about sand, and I got to thinking about sand, and then I remembered that I have this entire can full of clay that I have blended with distress embossing powders. And excuse me, I just dropped one of the things I wanted to show you. This was something that, oh dear, I don't remember if it was Judy Belcher or Kim Cavender, because they were both at the same retreat. I just remember learning this at a retreat. And actually I was at Shrinemont, but Tim Holtz has a huge display variety, and I don't even know if they still have these anymore. I've had these for years, but if they don't have these powders, other people will have something similar. But these are the distress embossing powders. And it's things like, where are the colors? Tattered rose, and mustard seed, and old paper, weathered wood. This was one of my favorites. Fired brick, peeled paint, black soot, and antique linen. This was another one I liked. Walnut stain, milled lavender. I did use that one too. And vintage photo. Now you'll recognize some of these names as inks that people use on their to distress cards and things. But what we did at Shrinemont that year was we blended these embossing powders with translucent clay, and these are all the colors that were blended up. And people have asked me about my egg that is one of my avatars. Looks like I called it the crown of thorn eggs. This was what I used to cover that egg. But this is one of the little, I never did anything with these, but this is one that I used, that I made. And everything on here, except the black and white, of course, is made with the distressed embossing powder. And I don't know if you can see the grainy look that it has. Kind of gives it the look of stone. Here's another one that I put together. And then this one I used the pink. And I've got some other examples somewhere. I just couldn't find them. But this is the tattered rose background mixed in with the embossing with the translucent clay. And I really liked the look of it, so that kind of led me to saying, okay, well, I can cover this, and I'll use some of the distressed embossing powder clay that I've got, that I've had tucked away for years. It'd be something else I can use up. And then I got to thinking, maybe I need to show you how to do that. So that's kind of where my thought pattern has gone this morning. I apologize if I sound like I'm rambling. I'm just trying to explain how I got to this point. So what I'm going to do is show you how And this would work, I mean, embossing powders work great in polymer clay because when you bake your polymer clay, it heats up the embossing powder and it changes, and it doesn't become liquid so much, but it just kind of melts into the clay, if you know what I'm trying to say. So what I've done is since I have a whole can full of clay already mixed, I don't need a lot. But I thought I would show you an example, and since I'm thinking about doing seaweed, I thought I would do something, although I've got some of that. Look at all the stuff I've got. This is the black soot and the old paper, and I don't even remember what I did with this. Have no idea. Here's another piece that was bigger, and I'm trying to remember what I did with it. I don't know. And evidently I rolled it fairly small because there's some little trim pieces. So there's no telling what I'll find when I start digging in this box. But since I've got some of that green, let me go with the weathered wood, because that's sort of a bluish green. And I'll just show you what I do is I usually just take some kind of little scoop and just scoop up some embossing powder, and I try to spread it out. And I'm going to leave it open because I may need to add more. But you add some, you can kind of rub it in a little bit because it's going to resist when you put it through the pasta machine until you get it mixed. So then you just fold it up because you don't want it to come pouring out, and then roll it through your pasta machine. So I'm going to do that. And you can see there's a little bit of air in there, and it's because of the powder, but you can work that out. But if you look at this, where the powder's together, you can see it's not stuck together. See, I can put my tool all the way inside. So what you need to do is to run it through the pasta machine until that is blended really well into the clay and you no longer have those pockets. So I'm going to turn the camera off so you don't have to watch that, and I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I've run that through the pasta machine about maybe 15 times, and now instead of having those air pockets, the embossing powder is now embedded in the translucent clay. You can tell it's not translucent anymore. But I think for what I want to use it for, I want it a little bit darker. So I'm going to add some more. Probably about the same amount. And this time I think I'm just going to put it on half of it so that the other half will be sticky and kind of hold it in, which is probably the better way to do this. But I really fell in love with this technique, and I have, again, don't know where they are. I'm sure they're tucked away somewhere, but I made little sample discs of all the different colors after they were baked. I kind of had hoped they were in here with my embossing powders, but they're not. And they're not in this tin, but I've seen them recently, so they're around here somewhere. But I'll just wipe that off a little, my finger. And you just do the same thing. Now here I've got a little bit sticking out, so I'm going to fold the clay over, otherwise the embossing powder is just going to come right off. And you don't want it to get into your pasta machine. So I'm going to blend this one and we'll see what we've got. Be right back. Okay, so I've got that done. I don't know if you can tell the color. It's actually a grayish bluish color instead of the greenish bluish color that it looks like in the jar, which is where those little samples would have come in handy. And I'm still looking around thinking maybe I can find them. It's the type of thing that I would normally have stuck up on the wall with a pin, but I probably took them down because they were getting in my way, and I don't know what I did with them. But anyway, so this is sort of a grayish color, which is fine. I might use that on something, but it's not the color that I was looking for. And let me dig in my box and see what I've got. I pulled these out before. There's another piece of that. Let me put this back. Now these look like some scrap pieces of I don't know what. I think this is just some scrap from when I did a project. And I just probably was working with these and just stuck it in the top. So this is going to go in my scrap container. Here is the black soot mixed with the translucent. And some of it looks darker than others, so I probably added more to this one than to that one. So that might look good as maybe some rocks. Okay, this is, well, the one thing about wrapping your clay and marking it is make sure you don't have the marker on the clay side, because this came off. But I think this one is, it says milled lavender, but that doesn't look like the lavender. Looks like some kind of green with Sharpie all over it is what it looks like. Here's some more colors. And I could have mixed some colors. Oh, this is some that I can use on this if I use it as sand. It's already made. But look, it's got little, I put little green dots on it for some reason, but that kind of looks like sand that would be at the bottom of the ocean. So I might use that one. Let's see, what is this? I love these mysteries. Oh, I see what I did with that. This is my leaf. That's what I was using these for, I think, was to make my leaves. See, I made a leaf cane. Okay, it's good to know I've got that too. Let me keep that one out. See, I'm on it. This is like a exploring. Now, this is pearl. Instead of using translucent clay, I probably mixed the tattered rose with some pearl clay. That might make some pretty seashells. And this is just the plain old paper that's mixed in here. And if there's anything else, I think that's about it. So I've got lots to pull from. Let me put my embossing powders away. So I think I've got enough to work with to make some, I might even use these little strips to make some seaweed. So I think I'm going to use, some of this to cover this glass. Now, I do need to move some out of the way so I can have room to work. Now, I've heard a lot of people asking, how do you get clay to stick to glass? And I've never had that problem. Everybody wants to know what to put on the glass for it to stick. I've never had to add anything. If you've ever worked on clay on a tile or a glass surface, you know how clay will stick to it in its raw state. So I'm not going to coat this with anything because I don't, I'm not going to be covering it. I'm just going to be laying things on here. And I think I'm going to start with this clay here, if I can get it apart. It's been together for so long. it really needs to be reconditioned, but if I condition it, I'm going to get rid of those little green spots. And this looks like it's got some pearl mixed in with it too. So since this has been conditioned, I think I'm just going to warm it up instead of rolling it through the pasta machine. And I'll show you what I'm going to do if I can get all these pieces. Maybe I'll just get another piece of plastic. I'm going to just take this plastic paper that I use and lay one on top, and I'm just going to rub it with my fingers. And you know, just like anything else, when you rub something, you create friction, and that friction creates heat, and that will warm up this clay. So it doesn't need to be conditioned because it's already been mixed up and conditioned. It just needs to be warmed up so you can use it. So I'm just going to do it like maybe one piece at a time so I can see what's going on. See how much I'm going to need. So hopefully this will be pliable enough now. I'm going to just take this and just sort of lay it. So I'm going to lay the straight part at the bottom. And try to bend it. That's how I'll know if my clay is warmed up, is if it'll bend. It's getting there. It's not as warm as I should do it. But with pressing it with my fingers, I'm going to be warming it up. And there's going to be cracks in it because, again, it's not really fully warmed up. See, there's a crack. But you know it's going to be the bottom of the ocean. Maybe I'll put a seaweed or something in there. Let's see if I can get this piece warmed up at least as well, if not a little bit better than that one. But you just create some friction. The easiest thing to do would be to put this, you know, fold this up and sit on it, or put it in your bra or whatever to warm it up, but I don't want to take that time. Okay, let me see how this is going to do. And it doesn't even matter. In fact, I might break this piece off. It's not going to matter whether it's straight at the bottom. I'm already going to cut this off because it's got some other clay stuck to it. But I will just keep pressing it with my thumbs to warm it up and to blend and to repair some of these little cracks. Let me take this one and whoops. I think I'll turn that. Since it broke off, I'll just turn it and let me just stick it there. And as I said, the more you work with it, the more it's going to warm up and start to give a little bit. I just like that look with those little green spots on it. And this is probably going to look pretty rough before it looks any better. It's one of those things like when you clean a house, you have to make a mess in order to make it better, make it cleaner. Well, this is going to be sort of the same thing. It's going to be a mess until I play with it a little bit. And I'm just going to fill this in because I have this piece with the green on it I wanted to use. Now let me show you what I've got. See, it's kind of rough looking. I'll probably pull this off. It's kind of rough looking. But it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. And at the end, we can come around and trim this off, you know, with your blade. Go around like this to trim it, so it's all going to be even eventually. But for right now, I'm not worrying about that. I'm just going to make sure that this clay is warmed up enough and sticky enough that it's going to stay stuck to this glass. Press, see there's a crack here. I'm just going to press that crack together. So you can heal as many cracks as you want to, or you can. It's not going to be quite big enough for me to stick my hand inside, which would make it a little bit easier. If you have a rounder votive, it might work better as far as putting your hand inside. But I'm okay. Like I said, we're going to be building on this. So that's just the sand at the bottom of the ocean. So let me use these little pieces. These are the little, the green with the black edges. And I'm just going to maybe, let me find some, all right, like here, there's that big gap right there. I think that's where I'll start with this. And I'm going to lay it sideways so that the black is on either side. And I'm just going to mash, and as I mash, because this is translucent clay, I think this was a lot of pearl in it, but since this is mainly translucent, it will warm up real quickly just with me pressing it with my fingers. And I'm going to put a long one there because I want this to look realistic. Let me stick that in there. And just press it. You can squiggle it a little if you don't, you know, it doesn't have to be straight. Matter of fact, it's better if it's not straight, because how many times do you see straight seaweed? But just keep, if you're doing this with freshly blended clay, like this one that I just did, you won't have to go through all this pressing because it's going to be soft enough. I'm just having to do this because this clay has been sitting for about, oh, I don't know, 15 years. It just goes to show you, you can use old clay. You just have to be patient with it. Let's put sort of a medium length. I'm just going to have this come up this way. Whoops. And just warm it with my thumb while I'm pressing. And then what I'm going to do, since I've got it, I think it's all warmed and pressed onto the glass pretty well, I'm going to pinch the ends into sort of a little point. Not a sharp point, but I've never seen flat-ended seaweed. It almost always comes to a point. So there, can you see that? Does that look like seaweed? And since I've got this out, there's another pretty big gap. Let me put some in there. I'll start with a medium length. Today is Tuesday. I don't know when this video will get posted, but I'm doing this on Tuesday. And I've got 3 packages coming from Fun Stamper's Journey. And one is coming today, and I don't know which one it is. It's probably not the one that I'd like to have, but all of them are good. So if you hear a doorbell ring, it's going to be my mailman. Oh no, it's coming by UPS. Never mind, it won't be here till later today. So we don't have to worry about that. Let me stick another one on here. This ended up making pretty neat looking seaweed, didn't it? I don't know what it's going to look like when it's baked. We will see together. And I can put some other things. I might make some fish out of regular clay and maybe some coral. Actually, I've got some coral color in here, don't I? I might use that for the coral. And I've got a couple of different ways I have made coral. This is twisted, and I think I'm going to leave it twisted because I think it'll make it look a little more realistic. I started to straighten it out and then changed my mind. Pinch the ends. Now I like to do things in threes, so I've got two, so I need to put one over here. And there just so happens to be a crack right there. So this one, I'll go ahead and put this long one in there. I may end up pinching it to make it shorter. Although this one is twisting also, but this one I don't want to. Because the other pieces I've got to go with it are short. I don't know how it would look if this one is really long. So I'm not going to press the end up yet. I'll just put these on first and then see how it looks. If it looks okay, then I'll press the top on. Now I'm sorry, this is going to be probably a long video, just because there's a lot to do when you cover a votive. But it's a lot of fun, and it's something different, something I haven't done in a while. And I think I will trim this off, like maybe right there. And I can pinch these ends again so that they aren't so blunt looking. Now I'm going to have a disclaimer. I don't know that every clay will stick to glass the way mine does. This is the translucent clay I'm working with here is going to be Kato translucent, because back when I made this, that's the only clay I used. I do know the Kato translucent or the Kato clays will stick to glass. I know that the Primos that I've used, I've never had a problem with it sticking to glass. But see, now those areas that were had gaps and cracks and things don't look so bad because I've filled it with seaweed. And I still have a few little pieces left. I may end up sticking those on there eventually. Let me put those up here just so I'll see them. I'll leave this here. Okay, so what next? I've got these little leaves, but I don't know of any. Are there leaves? Is there seaweed that has leaves on it? Let's go to this. This is what we just blended. And I'm thinking these look like rocks. So I'm going to pinch off pieces of different sizes and just roll them between my fingers. And I'm just going to place these around to look like rocks. You want some to be small and some to be large. I know I've mentioned this before, but my sister and I go to the beach every September, and we do a lot of walking. We walk. I think when my daughter and I went the last time, we had just gotten Fitbits, and we had 12,000 steps in by lunchtime. So we do a lot of walking. But my sister has one of these lamps that you fill with something, and she wanted to fill it with seashells. So she was always looking for seashells. Whereas I was looking for rocks. And I've got some of the most beautiful rocks. And I polished some of them in a rock polisher and a tumbler, because they're so much prettier when they're polished. They just look like old rocks once they dry off and you get them out of the, away from the ocean. But they're also different colors. So we've got some pretty gray ones. Let me find, I know with all these colors I had, I shouldn't have put them back in the tin. Don't want the black. I didn't have any brown, did I? I had this color, but I don't think that's enough to make coral, but I will make one piece out of it. Maybe I'll mix up another little piece to make some more coral. But I might use this green for some rocks, because those are green. Don't know if they're the same. But there's different color rocks. There's black rocks, so I probably should do a few black. Brown rocks. I've gotten purple rocks. Just some gorgeous rocks. So I'm sorry, I'll probably fast forward through a lot of this so you don't have to sit here and watch me make rocks. Okay, I'm back. I went ahead and took advantage of having the camera off to make my rocks, and went ahead and took my dogs out, so everybody should be okay for a while, so maybe I can get this finished. But I've got my seaweed on here, and I've got a couple of different molds. I have this Sculpting mold that has a whale and a turtle and a starfish and a shell and a seahorse, another fish, and a dolphin, and I'm not sure what this is. Don't know what that is. I don't have the cover that has the pictures of it. I also have this Christy Friesen mold. See what you can see mold, and the C is SEA. And it's got little small creatures on here, so I think I'm going to use this because I want anything that I make to be pretty small. And I also have this one, which is one of the best flexible molds. This is Penny Joe Couch. And these are little tiny shells, so I might use those for the shells. So I'm going to make a few molds right now, and let me see. Seems like one of these had some coral. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I was wrong. So I think that's seaweed. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to tear this, and you can see with the embossing powder in it, it doesn't tear, and just roll it into little snakes. And I'm going to branch off some, and I'm going to try to make my own coral. One thing about the translucent clay, excuse me, is it's so easy to mold with because it's so soft and sticky. And I might even just cut this and make two little points. Let me put another one, just rip off a piece and make a little snake and stick it on. Does that look like a piece of coral? I hope it does. And let's go stick that on here. And this is the translucent clay and the fired brick embossing powder. And once it's on, you can use, I've got a piece of sandpaper somewhere. Well, where is my sandpaper? I will use this though. I'll use this. This is just some of these rubber peel and stick type things. But I thought it had a real nice texture to it. So I'll use that on my seaweed. On my coral. I don't know if you can see that texture or not, but it looks really good. And I'll probably add another one somewhere. Let me do some of these rocks first. Well, I could use the rocks to fill in at the end. Let me do, see, there's a little starfish. I think I'll do the little starfish, and maybe I'll do that in this color also. But I want to spritz it with some water so it won't stick. Where's my little spritzer? This one is awfully big. I'll just stick this down in here, and see, this is very soft. That's too much water. I don't like this spritzer because it puts out too big a spray. And just take your blade and slice across the top. And there's a little starfish. So I think I'll put this over here on the sand to put some of that color. I love that this has got sort of like a sand dollar type little texture to it. So there's a starfish. What else can we put on the sand? Let's do one of these little shells, and I think I'm going to use this pink pearl. If I can get that conditioned. It's not as easy to condition as the translucent. Oh, it's soft. No problem. And just put some of that water down in that little hole. and just press that in, and that's not even going to fill the cavity real full, so I can just pop this out and see the little shell. So I'll put that maybe right here. Had something black on my finger, but it came off. Whoops. Still got water on it. I probably should have dried it off before I stuck it on there. I kind of messed up the design on that one. Let me try this again and dry it off this time. Wanted to get that little swirl back in there. And I'm going to use a little knitting needle just to kind of go back and put that swirl, just emphasize it a little bit, just put a little line through that swirl. Because I didn't want to lose that. That was the whole purpose in using that little shell. And let's see. It's another type of seahorse, starfish, but I think that's too big for what I want to do. There is a little seahorse. Let me use some of this green. Of course, I'll need to warm it up a little bit. But being translucent, it should warm up really easily. But I'm going to roll it and taper the ends, because I don't know if you can see the design here. It's a long mold, and this way I can get clay in both ends. So I'll just press in the center. I think it needs to be a little bit softer. I don't know what color seahorses are. I've seen them in all different colors. I was thinking green, but I could use this gray that I just made today, and that would probably do better because it's softer. Let me try one more time with the green. Just warm it up in my hands. That's softer. Of course, if I had more room to work, it would be a lot easier. I don't think this is going to be soft enough. Let me use this gray. I would rather have had a color, but this is fresh clay, and it's going to be so much softer. And I'm sure it'll go in here much easier. Just try to follow the shape of the mold the best you can. and then press it down in there. See, I couldn't have done this with that other clay. It was just too firm. It would take a lot to have warmed it up. Press it down. I can see me now. I'm going to end up dumping all those rocks into my drawer that I keep open here if I'm not careful. So let me just go across it with the blade. Try not to cut your rubber. You don't want to cut the silicone. If you need to shave a little off and then go back and shave some more, that's fine. Just like that. And see, I can see my design now. There. That should do it. Now let's pop it out. And there's the little seahorse. You know what I can do, if I don't like this color, let's put the little seahorse right here. I'm going to put him over close to the seaweed. Straighten him up a little bit. But what I'm going to do, I think, is put some, I'll do that at the end. I can use some perfect pearls to add some color to him. So that gray will be fine. I'll do the same thing with the fish. Since the gray is fresh, I might make a red fish. How about a red fish? I'll use my freshly made clay to make these. And then after everything is done, everything is made that I'm going to put on here, then I can place the rocks in any areas that need something to be filled in. So that's going to be too much. This might be too much, but I'd rather have a little bit too much than not enough. So again, just kind of press it into the mold. Give it a good press. And slice off a little bit. I don't think I got this tail very well. So let me just make sure you press this clay into this tail. And then just start slicing. Whoops. I did slice off part of the tail. But you know what you can do? Just take a small little piece of clay and put it down in where the tail is. I'm going to put a little bit on top of this one because it got pretty thin. And then slice again. There we go. You just have to be patient and take it slow. I'm not very good at doing things slow. But look at that little fish. Isn't he cute? So I'll put him maybe up here. And I'll make a gray one. I might use that same little fish. There's a larger fish. Maybe I'll do the larger fish. Just to see what that looks like. If it's too big for this, I'll go back and make another one like the other one. I like to try all my molds just to see, and if you don't like it, you know, it's clay. Just ball it up and do something else with it. Just make sure you press it so that it's all in all the little nooks and crannies of your mold. And you notice I'm moving my blade. I'm not just pushing it through, I'm moving it because it's very hard. You'll pull the clay out of your mold if you don't move the blade. If you just go like this, it's going to push it and then this will curl up. And just be careful not to slice your mold. Okay, let's see what this fish looks like. That's a nice little fish. And you see how there's a little clay in there and a little clay up here. Go ahead and put it on your glass and stick it on, and then just take a little tool of some kind and you can just smooth it out, pull it off, whatever it is you need to do to get rid of those little flat places where you didn't quite shave all the clay off. That's okay. I said I had a little bit on this fin also. I wasn't going to worry with it, but I'll just take this and run along just to make it smooth. A little piece of clay came off. But I love using molds. I'm not a big sculptor, so I like to use molds. So I've got a starfish, I've got a seahorse, I've got one shell, so I need some more shells. So this one has got all different size shells. And I think I'll do a gray one since I've got some gray right here. And just press it in. This mold is a little bit firmer, so you can use a little bit firmer clay with it. This one it's very, very nice, but it's very squishy. I like to roll my fingers along these edges so if I don't know where the edge of the design is, I like to roll my fingers over it just to kind of make sure I'm where I need to be. This one's going to be a little bit harder to come out, but let me just take a little piece of clay. There you go. And that's a pretty shell. You see that? It's tiny, but it's pretty. And just lay them on the sand. This one also has a little bit of extra clay around the edge. Maybe I ought to do that up here and then move it. And you don't even really have to trim it off. You can just smooth it and it becomes part of the shape. Now I can pick it up, and I thought I would cover up this crack with that shell. And see some dust in that one, or let me find a brush. Oh, and that has perfect pearls on it, so that's going to give it a little bit of color. So let's see, do I need any red? I don't really need any more red, I don't think. I've got 3 reds. So let me try, I'm going to try this green. It's a little bit firmer, but this is a firmer mold. And let's just see what happens. I don't think that's going to be enough. It's funny how some of these translucent clays have just softened up really well, but for some reason this green didn't. But I'm going to press that down in, and wouldn't you know, I think I'm just about exactly the size that I needed. Just very little to shave off. Just come at it from several different directions to make sure you've got all of it off. Yep. And it picked up a little bit of that pearl color. But again, there's that lip there. I'll just pull it off. Tried to cut it. Of course, this isn't a blade, this is just a tool. There you go. And that's one of those coil shells. I don't know what the name of it is, that's just what I call it. See where we need something. There's a big crack, so let's put this over that crack. So I've got some shells, I've got a seahorse, I got a couple of fish. I think that might be all I'm going to do. So let me add some rocks. I'm going to add a few little black ones here and there. And I found that most of them are oval. That one ended up being more round. But let me see if there's a place where I can put some to cover up a crack. So just make them into like oval shapes and then flatten them. And you can put them just about anywhere because this is supposed to be the bottom of the ocean. Okay, let me put a gray one. I've got gray there, so let me put gray over here. And I think I'll put a little one next to it because sometimes they're in groups. Well, I lost that one into my drawer. I told you I'd lose it into my drawer. I don't even see where it went. So let me get another little one. Is that gray? No, that's green. Well, there's nothing wrong with using green next to a gray rock. So I can use a gray one there. Just kind of fill in wherever you need the color or just a little bit of texture. I need some rocks over here. So I've got the gray shell, so let me try this color. I've got those green things that look like rocks, but this one's a different color. Let me put a little one. I don't know about you, but I like threes. So I'm going to put a little black rock next to it. let's see, how about a gray one here? I don't want a very big one. Let me get a medium size one. And maybe cut this one in half. Oh, it's under the plastic. It still worked. Yeah, I don't know. Some of you might like a lot more stuff on here. And feel free to add as much as you want. But I think I'm happy with the way this is. And I think this would be very pretty with a votive candle in it. Could use something right there, couldn't I? I don't know what else, unless I put another little fish. I could do another little fish and make it gray, and then I'll put different color perfect pearls on it. Just use some of this stuff that I shaved off. Actually, I should use these rocks that I have left over. But this is a pretty shallow fish, so this doesn't have to go down too far, but I do need a firm surface underneath since the mold itself is squishy. They're great molds. Just be sure you put it on a hard surface. I pulled that little tail out, so let me put this clay back in there and try shaving again a little bit easier. There. Now those little ridges that I had that I was cutting off, if you take your finger and just kind of push towards the mold as you go around, you'll get rid of a lot of those little pieces that you want to trim off. It's going to be hard on this tail. This tail is pretty thin. So there we go. So I don't think I'm going to do anything else as far as adding clay. So let me put this away. And put the gray away. I think I used what I had for the gray. I used for the pink. This is just plain translucent. This is my biggest problem, is putting things away when I'm finished. And I don't think anything else needed any texture. I think that little piece of coral was the only thing, and I might texture it a little bit more and flatten it a little bit. I'm not going to worry with those rocks just yet. I'm going to lay it upside down. And I'm going to get out my perfect pearls. and decide what colors I'm going to put on what. Now I've got that little starfish. Not real sure what the name of this color is. Some of these have colors written on them and some don't. I've got them in a book. But I'm going to brush this over the starfish. Can you see how the design is coming out with the perfect pearls on it? Okay, and I'll probably use this also on the seashell. This one. If you use perfect pearls on your raw clay, you don't need to put any kind of sealer over it afterwards because it's already got, there's like a resin type thing inside the perfect pearls that causes it to stick to the clay when it's heated. Now your Pearl X and your other mica powders, they will stick to the raw clay, but when they're baked, if they're going to be rubbed up against anything, you really need to cover them with some kind of a sealer or gloss. Let me get my second favorite tool out. My first favorite tool is a toothpick. My second favorite is a Q-tip. And try to wipe some of this powder off of my glass. I don't think it will do anything, but talking about the sealer inside of the perfect pearls, I'm thinking, oh, what if it leaves a little thing on my glass? What else could use this clear one? Not clear, it's sort of an ivory color, a pearl color. Actually, we could make some of the, well no, pearls are inside shells. I was going to say I could make some of these rocks into little pearls, but that would look kind of dumb. So, I don't have that. I've got the seaweed, and I've got, is this it? I'm going to need to get my book out. I'll show you what I do for my colors. I have a book, and I have baked pieces of clay. And I have it white and black, and so it shows what these colors look like on white clay and on black clay. And I'm looking for this green patina, which is number 3. And that's what this is. I was hoping it was, but some of these colors look very similar, and they're different when you start using them. So I'm going to take this green patina, because it's a lighter green, and just kind of lightly brush over the seaweed so it'll have some shimmer to it. And it's a very, very light green. It's just like it says, it's like a patina. If you put it on white clay, it's a very pale green, but since this is already green clay, it's not really changing the color, it's just adding a little bit of shine. And I think I need to point that one a little bit more. Maybe I need to use my tool, since my fingers didn't do a very good job. Well, it's come loose. Now I can pick it up and point it and then stick it back down. So there's that one. And I'll put some on this one. I'll tell you what I did is, this is just an old paintbrush, and I cut the tip off so that I only had the brushy part at the end, and it works great with these mica powders. You can take your finger, but once I get it on my fingers, I have a hard time getting it off. But I think on this seaweed, the finger would work better. That one I've done. This one needs to be done. And it's a little quicker too. Just be sure when you dip your finger into the jar that you tap it off into the lid, or you'll end up with way too much, because it doesn't take much. Okay, so there's green, and I'm thinking I'll add some green to this fish. No, I'll add blue to that. Well, I'll add green to one and blue to the other one. Let me add green to this one. Can you see how it, can you see it on camera? I don't know if you can or not, but it's got a real pretty green sheen to it now. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe I should have used the darker green. I have one that's called Forever Green. Okay, so green on that. Let me put some green on this shell. And I think I'm going to put some kind of blue on the seahorse. Now I've got a turquoise that I'll put on either that. And this number 9, let me look at my book again. This is mint, so that's not the color I want. And this is the blue patina. So I have that, and I've got the turquoise. I don't think I've ever opened this turquoise. Oh, fun! I get to try something new. That's a light color. So let me see. I think I will put, I am going to use a brush on this fish. I think I'm going to use the turquoise on the fish. Ooh, that's pretty. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. I had it too close to me. And again, this, I think I'm going to need to use my finger to get the coverage I want. So now it doesn't look gray anymore. It's like a shiny blue. And I'll use the, what did I say this was? Forever Blue. Number 7 was what? Nope, not number 7. Number 2, the blue patina. That's what it is, blue patina. On the seahorse. Might need to use the brush to get in around his belly. And my finger just didn't get there. And his nose. And I think, oh, I need to do something with the reds, don't I? Okay. Let me put these back. I've got some new colors in my Perfect Pearls, and I don't have samples of those in my book, so I'm going to have to do that. Blush. Huh. It looks like a pale pink. But I need something red. Here's Forever Red. Because I want to keep this little guy red. This is another finger one. Oh, how pretty. I like that. Can you see that? And I'm going to do the same thing on the coral. I know they're right there together. But doing this, I know you can't see it on camera, but you can see the little bit of texture that I put on the coral. And where's my other? I think I'm going to put red on top of this because I just like the way the red looks. Ooh, that looks pretty. Where's the red, the little star shape is red, and the rest of it has that pearl color. So I'm about done with my, oh no, I'm not. I've got one more thing to do. And that's to turn it upside down and trim it. Put these away. And then turn this upside down. And take your blade and just go around the edge. Because when you're finished with it, you want it to be able to sit on your table or wherever you're going to put it and sit evenly. And just go around a couple times just to make sure you got everything. And I'm going to put this on a piece of cardstock and put it in the oven and bake it. And then when it comes out of the oven, I will show it to you baked. And hopefully it will look as pretty as it looks unbaked. So I'll be back when it's done. Okay guys, this is my finished votive. I left the bottom rough because it was supposed to be the bottom of the ocean, but look at this. Isn't this cute? And I love the shape of this. This is going to look so nice sitting on a table with a votive in there with the fishies behind it and everything. I'm real happy with this. So I hope you like it. I'm just trying to let you see all parts of it. But anyway, so this is my polymer clay for today. You never know when I might come back with something else. I just wanted to show you this. And like I said, it was one of those evolving projects. I started off thinking one thing and then my mind just kind of went crazy. So I will be back again with another one soon. Have fun and keep on claying. Bye-bye.